99% of people that I know, probably 99% of people that you know, probably even yourself, definitely me, have never been hungry.
Hey guys, thank you so much for supporting us and watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more and get some of our merchandise like this awesome apron, be sure to check out our website at thecarnivorerevolution.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and today my special guest is Jake Thomas. He's a carnivore coach, a former Marine, and a 6-time natural physique champion. And I'm really glad to have you today. You have been kind of rocking the internet a little bit with your 30 days of raw milk only. So I want to get into that. But thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Serena. It's good to be here. Thank you for the lovely tallow products. I've been a big fan.
Yay, I'm so glad you like it. It's hard to beat tallow for skincare. I mean, that's for sure. It's the best way to go, all natural.
I've definitely taken small scoops to eat as well.
Yeah, well, come on. You can't not eat it, right?
It's like, one of the first things people don't realize is like, yeah, if you can't eat a product
right.
that you use on your body, especially on your face, maybe it should raise a question. Anyway, I've definitely dipped into it.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't be eating most of the foods they're eating either. So to be fair,
Hard
to
truth.
be fair,
Very
the
hard
people
truth.
that be fair to the people that can't eat their skincare products, they shouldn't be eating most of the food they're eating either. So I guess it makes sense. Okay, so let's start with your story, how you became a carnivore, what your life was like before that, and then we'll kind of move on and talk about some of the things that you've done as a carnivore.
Sure. 2020 was when I started. It was June. The world was, what it was in 2020. I actually just finished my last competition in natural bodybuilding and physique. And I was a vegan at the time. I'd been a vegan for just over a year, competing as a vegan, kind of challenging the status quo as a vegan. People said, oh, you couldn't do it. You couldn't compete in bodybuilding, especially in the various circuits. The natural circuit is one thing, but going and stepping into the other federations where it's not natural would be another thing. And I found success not only in the natural circuits, but also in the unnatural circuits. So there was a lot of, like you said, kind of pushing against the norms there in that alone. But I'd been a vegan for over a year. I'd done some plant-based eating before that. And typically just kind of standard American dieting, counting macros if it fits your macros and all that stuff, preceding all that throughout my phases of bodybuilding. And it was really from different girls that I was dating at the times, to be honest. I was dating a vegetarian. Okay, sure, I'll drink this milk. I'll eat these things. I'll remove a few things so we can have a little more civil of a household, and it made shopping easier. And it was just an adventure to me. I was, cool with it. I was like, yeah, why not? I'll try it. And so that was one way. And then the more I kind of did that and found myself being in this, kind of new space or blue ocean of competitive space, especially in bodybuilding, I was like, this is kind of cool. Let me stay here for a while and figure this out because nobody else is really doing this. And then I did that for a little bit, found success there. Then I found that was kind of a segue into veganism and went into veganism even more so because so many people said, you can't do it. You're not going to do it, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it was fun. But then in 2020, a friend of mine pitched this, what I, at the time was radical, wild, and somewhat insane to me of an idea of like, dude, you should try this diet, this carnivore diet. And it's all meat. I was like, oh, cool. So it's like keto. No, it's not because, it's not have those items and this and that. And it's high fat. I'm like, right. So it's like keto. And he's like, bro, you're not understanding me. Just animals and animal byproducts, nothing else. And I was like, oh, that is kind of radical. Okay.
I tell people it's like keto on steroids.
Well, the funny thing about that is that I would say 90+% of people who are on a keto diet are never actually in ketosis.
Right.
That's a big one. I just want to say that again. 90+% of people that are on ketogenic diets are actually never in ketosis. We'll touch on that later.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, so I was like, all meat. Oh my God, it's just crazy. All animals and animal byproducts. That sounds crazy. Watch this watch this YouTube episode, these episodes, listen to these / watch these podcasts, read these books, journals and articles, reports, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, cool. And anybody that can present an argument to me with kind of a good amount of literature, seemingly some authoritative sources and credible, knowledge bases. I was like, all right, he's pretty organized with the pitch. He wasn't just like, hey man, you should go do this because I just thought of it one day and read a bumper sticker and said to try it out. Which I'm not going to lie that I've certainly done things like that too. But this one was, a lot closer to home for me, and it was pushing on my ego. Right?
Yeah.
I just come from, like I said, my last competition in bodybuilding, which was a world championship. competition on the natural stage. I'd placed, gotten on the podium, so I was pretty proud,
Mhm.
of myself and thought kind of highly of what I knew in regards to
Yeah.
nutrition and dietetics and stuff like that. And here's my best friend from the service who was not a specimen of health by any means, who is not in the best place as far as in mental health is concerned at the same time, just as far as in being a voice to kind of, hey man, you should do this in a nutritional sense. I was like, you couldn't have
Mm.
been the more not who I would
Yeah.
really be taking advice from kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, very proud and egoic and like, thinking about the medal that's on me. And I'm like, who's this guy to tell me? Like I'm the
Yeah.
one with the medal around my neck that I just won. Anyway, I watched, I listened, I read, and then I said, hey, why not? Let's try it. So June 12-ish, something like that, 2020, I went full on. I said, okay, I'm going to do this 30 days with nothing, no coffee, no, garlic, no little things that many people still hold on to and say that, yeah, I'm on a carnivore diet, but like the way I define the diet, animals and animal byproducts only.
Mhm.
That's not, yeah, I'm on a carnivore diet with coffee. It's not a carnivore diet. Yeah, I'm on a
Mhm.
carnivore diet with wine. It's not a carnivore diet. Yeah, I'm on the lion diet with chocolate. It's not a lion diet. Right? It's like you ask I'm from New Orleans originally. Food is, it's a big part of my heart. You ask a chef about a recipe or a dish name or a bartender for that matter of a cocktail. Yeah, can I get a Cuba Libre with orange juice in it? It's not a Cuba Libre anymore. Can
Mhm.
I get a Neapolitan chef? Can I get a pizza margarita with um, pepperonis on top of it? It's not a
Mhm.
margarita anymore. The name is the name. The thing is the thing. Carnivore diet is what it is. It's not this plus that. It becomes something other than.
Mhm.
Right. So in that sense, I went no coffee, no nothing, no additives, animal byproducts, salt and water. That's it for those 30
Mhm.
days. And it was radical. It was awesome. The first 10-ish days, I was so enthralled by eating all the fat and just, wow, it's so fulfilling and filling and nourishing and satisfying because for the last several years preceding that, between bodybuilding and fitness modeling, I'd been like really picky about every little calorie that came into me. And red meat is, too much red meat is bad, especially having been a vegan. This was like
Mhm.
really outside of a comfort zone for me. In my mind, my body was telling me completely differently. My body was telling me, "This is wonderful. We love this. This is good. Keep doing this. This is healthy." But I was arguing with it through my feelings, my emotions, my mind, my modern mind, my perceived mind, what I had learned and figured out on my own was going against what my body, my naturally born body was trying to tell me. So that's where it began. And 4 years later, coming up on 4 years now, here we are. And it's been a hypothesis I've continued to try to test. I love science, and I
Mhm.
say when people ask like, "What do you call yourself a coach?" or did I say I'm a scientist more than
Mhm.
anything, and the name of a scientist or the job rather of a scientist is not to try to prove law, but is to constantly test your hypothesis
Right.
for fallibility.
Mm.
To try to make it show failure. And this is the one, Serena, that of all the diets, of all the things I've subscribed to and tried, I can't prove it wrong. So I
Mhm.
continue to try to test it. So here I am,
Mm.
like I said, almost 4 years later, still failing away.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's amazing, and I think while I understand your point about, if you do carnivore with something else that's not carnivore anymore, I do like you, I help a lot of people get started, and I feel like for some people, coffee is a deal breaker.
Yeah,
For some people, and I would much rather see people go on the carnivore diet and keep their coffee, even if it has some stevia in it or something,
totally, totally,
than to say, "Well, you can't be a carnivore then." I mean, you agree with that
totally.
though, right? Like, I mean, for you, you're not gonna do lion diet with chocolate, and you're not gonna do carnivore with coffee, but I think that for so many people, there are, like, these little hangups, and I talked to somebody the other day that said, "Could I keep my Coke Zero?" And I was like, if that's the one thing you keep, and it's the one thing that keeps you carnivore, then just do it, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like, we can't I think we're gonna turn people off and make people think they can't do it because that's people's immediate reaction anyway
sure.
is, "Oh, I could never do that," right?
Oh, like now with clients, I guess I should have introduced that a little differently.
It's okay.
The way I defined it and the way that I did it was
Yeah.
what I thought to be either right or the way
Mhm.
that I ended up going about it, kind of thing.
Right.
People that I coach, or anyone for that matter, absolutely like
Yeah.
if you need to. go circles within circles within circles to kind
Yeah.
of find your way. Go about doing it. One of my first clients years ago, when I first started training people in New York, he's like, "Oh my God, man, and this is before I was a carnivore. It's like, man, I drink like 5 or 6 ginger ales a day. Like, is that going to be the first thing you're going to hit me with? You're going to take away all the ginger ale? I'm gonna be like, no, man. Like, well, let's, maybe not have 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5.
Right. Yeah.
Because I use the same kind of logic that I use
Hmm.
with substance abuse, with alcohol, cigarettes, anything that I've kind of
Hmm.
gotten rid of in the past. Not all of them were just cold turkey. Like some things had to be chipped away, and some things had to be chipped away and they came back
Right.
and they had to be chipped away again. And
Hmm.
the sculpture is always kind of an evolving thing. So yeah, for sure. I do
Yeah.
not want to um discriminate in the sense of you shall not pass, right?
Right.
Gandalf. In the sense that it's either this way or it's no way, because
Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
you get anyone. I mean, the amount of Coke Zero you would have to drink to offset the benefits of what you're going to get out of the
Yes.
rest of the diet and the lifestyle is, I would say, it'd be very, very difficult to do, extremely difficult.
Hmm.
And I say many times to people when they do bring up that singular item or this and that, my response is always, that's not where you're losing the fight. So don't worry.
Right.
Like that
Right.
Coke Zero or garlic powder or
Right.
carrots, for that matter. Like when
Right.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't know, but it's not
Yeah.
where you're losing the fight. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Like
That,
we'll
yeah.
get to that too if you
Right.
so choose to do it. And then
Right.
it just becomes this, again, circle within circle within
Mhm.
circles. And that be the beginning, it was okay, I'm just gonna try to not watch pornography for like an hour. That's where the bar starts for some people.
Right.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to go, a day without having to go to Dairy Queen for a blizzard, or whatever
Hmm.
your vice, whatever the reason, whatever the challenge we're trying to overcome is,
Yeah.
starts there.
Yeah.
And then eventually within a few weeks for most people, months, sometimes a little longer than that, it's
Hmm.
like, Jake, I'm really trying to kick these blueberries, but I just can't seem to give
Yeah.
them up. What amazing progress that is. Pretty darn good progress,
Right.
And then now they're thinking, but yeah, I'm really trying to beat these blueberries and the parsley
Right.
snips to get into that next space, or if it's coffee.
Right.
And
Hmm.
to your point, Serena, I believe, having come from substance abuse and alcohol and other things, I think coffee's the hardest one of them all
Coffee is
because it's the
hard.
most
Yeah. Coffee is
ineffective.
Yeah, really hard. I gave it up almost 2 years ago. So I was more than a year in,
Mm,
and it was hard.
mm.
It was emotional. I cried for 2 weeks off and on, and the thing
Mm.
is for me, I had this post sickness that shall not be named issue where things tasted and smelled like I had distorted taste and smell. It was
I love how you
I'm not gonna say it.
I also said 2020 for a reason.
I
I
know,
do not
right?
I do not, breathe
I know.
those words either to
Yeah.
personify to give it life.
Yeah. Yeah, well, for me, it's
Wow.
that I am not getting shadow banned because I use that word. I
I
am
love
not.
it. You're the
So
first person I've met that is also, Voldemorted
yeah,
the,
so
that
I
word.
don't
Amazing,
no, I don't
amazing.
use the word anymore.
Did we
Um,
just become best friends?
I know, right? So anyway, things tasted and smelled like skunk. That's actually why I became a carnivore. It was horrible, and coffee was one of the
Wow.
worst offenders, but I continued to doctor it for that first almost year, like, it
Mm,
was right around a year. Like, it just was so horrible, so horrible, and, so I gave it up. I cried off and on for 2 weeks, and so at that point, I had really only kept it because of the addiction to the caffeine.
mm.
Like, that was the only reason I even kept it in my diet, but I remember talking to Doctor Chafee about it, like, while I was going through it, it was like, I was sad. I was like, I almost felt lonely. It was just
Mhm.
the weirdest thing to give that up. And for a lot of people, that's not going to be coffee because they already don't drink coffee or they're going to decide to keep coffee, but it's giving up the processed foods and the sugar. And like you mentioned Dairy Queen before, we have every function that we do as a society, as humans, revolves around food, and most of the time, there is some meat there, but there's so much other stuff, and everybody else is eating the other stuff, and that puts us you feel like you're behind the 8 ball, you feel like you're out of place sometimes, and that can be hard for a lot of people, and that's when people cave.
Oh god, yes.
Mhm.
It's so rewarding to speak to someone that's talking about this from the emotional side, that sees it from the emotional side, the connection of this, because it's not, I don't want to say that it's about, carnivore, or that it's about veganism, or about one thing versus the other, like a red versus blue.
Right.
even though it's got a lot of that because of just the polarizing elements that a lot of this
Mhm.
has and how serious we all seem to be when it comes to what we eat. You know, you and I can be Red Sox and Yankees fans and somehow get along. We can be
Mhm.
from different religions and even somehow get along. But God forbid you question my ethics or whatever you want to call it and how I eat.
Yeah.
Oof, you know, like it can get vicious.
Yeah.
But what I've learned profoundly through this and kind of what you're starting to get to, I think, is about, yeah, absolutely. We as human beings, and especially modern Westerners and Americans, we live to eat. We do not eat to live.
That's right.
Everything in our lives revolves around food. All right, we're going for a trip. You and I, Serena, we're flying out
Okay.
tomorrow. On the way to the airport, hey, should we pick up something to grab to snack on? Sure. Oh,
Absolutely.
maybe we even hit the buffet at the hotel before we left,
Mhm.
or there was a continental breakfast, and let me just
Mhm.
grab a muffin or
Yeah.
a scone
Mhm.
or whatever. We're at the airport, we got to eat something here or at least get another cup of coffee. Okay, cool. It's an international flight, so we're going to have a meal or two on the plane. Great. We land wherever we land. We maybe grab something while we're waiting for our bags. I don't know. We definitely get something on
Mhm.
the way to the hotel. Once we're there
Right.
at the hotel, now we're going to settle, maybe eat food, or we're going to walk out and go somewhere for that. Go get drinks afterwards, maybe a late night meal.
Everything.
Everything. The entire day has not stopped.
Mhm.
Consumption has been part of the whole day. And the consumption is not just about our eating, right? It's
Mhm.
everything about our digital. We cannot be alone. It's like we've lost the ability to have self-reliance, autonomy, and just overall personal independence. And that connection with food, I think, is a huge one that
Mhm.
drives us all in a fearful way to not want to sever it. And I think that's what's so hard about the coffee is that we're talking about identity. We're talking about, every morning for the last X amount
Yep.
of years, I've done this. The smell of coffee, the sound of
Mhm.
the pot dripping, the
Yep.
brew, the boil, all of that hits this nerve center in my mind that goes, I'm awake, I'm waking up, I'm getting in work mode. Okay, I'm in New York. I got my mug. It's an accessory item.
Yep.
It is an identity,
It is.
and taking that away as much as it is the habit and
Mhm.
yeah, I need the stimulant and da 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 da.
Mhm.
It's the identity
Yeah.
and all these other places that we've associated or created an identity with.
Mhm.
People see them as being taken away, and
Mhm.
that is fear. That's very scary. But rather than it be scary, it's more so the fact that, well, what am I going to do without that, as opposed to thinking, God, how have I seemed to have needed that for so long that I couldn't even be with in my own space and feel fulfilled, rewarded, wealthy,
Mhm.
abled, as opposed to when I hear people, I can't do blank without blank. Like how we've come to that. But that's
Mhm.
where most people are. And
Yeah.
especially when it's coffee or all the people that troll me with athletics and how do you do it without carbs and da 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 da
Mhm.
and fasting and dry fasting. It's like to think that you can't, to tell yourself that, to have that self-talk of no, that negative
Mhm.
self-talk, you're already enslaved. Your mind is controlled by an outside force that's been put in there, maybe not maliciously to try to manipulate and control you, but an indirect benefit of that schema has been to do exactly that. And so The Matrix is a favorite movie of mine to kind of show
Mhm.
a correlation of what this is like. And that is what this is like. This is about becoming unplugged and realizing like, wow. And that fateful scene in The Matrix was one of the antagonists, character Cypher, talking about, one of the things I learned in all that time when he's talking about the steak, and he's like, when I put it in my mouth, it'll be juicy and tender. The
Mhm.
Matrix is telling me this, but in all those years, what I learned was, and he bites into it, and he's like, ignorance was bliss.
Yeah.
That is what I think people are afraid of the most.
Yeah.
Once they see it, and
Mhm.
it's what I kind of advise to clients and people just that ask me on the street, even, what can you tell me about this? Is this going to be cool? Blah, blah, without trying to scare them off too badly, because it's not a very scalable statement. I say to most people, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. And they're like, no, I've had 4 kids, or I've had multiple businesses, or I've lost children, or I've this and that. I've gone to war 10 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, respect, no doubt about it. But if you've been thinking the world was this way for 40 years, 50, 70, 15 years, whatever, and I'm about to show you a preview of how it's actually really is,
Yeah.
you're going to try to reject it. And most
Mhm.
people do. And that's why I say it's one of, if not the most difficult thing you're going to ever go through up
Mhm.
until this point, at least, because yesterday you thought you knew everything about the world. And then
Yeah.
now it's completely different. Imagine what you would know tomorrow.
Yeah, nothing honestly, nothing in my life has ever set me apart from other people and from my community more than this has, more than my actual community, in my own personal life.
Oh, yeah.
I find people apologize to me when they order the fries and the bun with their burger and the milkshake. They say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm eating the fries," or "I'm sorry, I'm
Mm,
getting the milkshake." And I'm like, "Don't apologize to me. I mean, I didn't ask you to do what I'm doing,
mm,
and that bothers me. But, you know, some of those same people know they feel better on a low carb diet. And it just goes to show you how strong that addiction is. I mean, I have had 10 or 15 people in my own life, that I see on a regular basis tell me I should go back on a low carb diet. I felt so good when I did that, or my autoimmune was in remission,
mm.
or, stuff like that. And
Oh, yeah.
and yet they don't do it. And that just goes to show you how strong the addiction is to those processed foods and the sugar and the ultra processed foods. And I mean, it's heartbreaking, that people can't see it and that people won't do it for their health and for their families and for themselves. I mean, it definitely sets us apart
Wow.
because so much of what we do revolves around what we eat. And I feel like some people can go ahead and go out to eat with their friends and have a few fries with the meal and not feel terrible the next day, even, and not
Mhm.
feel guilty about it. Like they can grab a handful of fries and just be fine. But that's where the moderator versus abstainer thing comes in. So, what are you? Are you an abstainer or a moderator? Could you have just one?
Good question.
I'm
And
betting no, but but answer me honestly. But I'm
yeah,
betting
no,
no because of your past.
a few ways. First off, I want to say I love what you said about this has been the most extremely I don't say ostracized, but
Hmm.
this has put you on an island more than anything else you've done in your
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
I agree 1000%.
Mm.
And I've never thought of it that way. Or I've never heard someone phrase it that way. So I was just like, wow, that's really interesting because you can go down your list of
Mhm.
things, right? Either
Yeah.
interests, accolades, adventures, issues you've had to deal with, ups and downs. And I think on my own, like, be military, vegan, drugs, booze, whatever, like each one of those things puts you in a
Mhm.
category, right?
Yep.
100%. Nothing has got me to this, has put me in a category like this where I've had more hate mail and
Yeah.
hate speech in general
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
people I don't know,
Yeah.
from close friends,
Yeah.
from family. I've never gotten so much hate mail, speech, verbiage, any whatever you want to say, from so many people as
Yeah.
opposed to what I from doing this now. Never nearly as much as a Marine, never as much as a vegan, not as a Catholic, not a
Mhm.
I don't know, like, I
Yeah.
could literally go down
Mhm.
the list, but
Yeah.
now that you say it, I'm like, gosh,
Mm.
that's so true, and, that just really hit me hard, like, wow.
Mm.
But as far as in, moderator or abstainer, drugs, yeah, I
Yeah.
abstain. Like,
Yeah.
I can't go back to that.
Yeah,
With
so
the
do you
food
have that same issue with food?
so with the food, it's more of choice for
Mhm.
me, like, out of it's weird because it should be out of choice for the drugs too, in the sense that
Yeah.
like, I look at the food and I'm thinking, I don't want the fries because of what they are, even though I could eat them and yeah, they're gonna taste good. I'm just thinking about the oil. I'm thinking about
Right.
the preservatives that are in them, the lack thereof actual 100% potato ingredient that is not in front of me.
Mhm.
That's what's going through my mind. And so it's more about the desire of
Mhm.
not wanting any of that substance as opposed to just like, let me just have one. It's like, I really don't want it, you know? Whereas with drugs, I'm not gonna really be like, what's the purity here? Like 50% or less. It's gotta be more than this, and that
Yeah.
was that was definitely me at one point. But
Mhm.
yeah, with a lot of those other things, it's I really don't even want them.
Mhm.
And then I start to associate them with that slavery, with
Yeah.
that drone, mindless queuing of the selves, of the
Mhm.
ants, of the drone, like the drones, and like just falling in line for their trough, for their
Mhm.
feeding of nonsense, which is based around pleasure. That's the massive thing that's always going to keep this what's the best diet, what's the healthiest way to eat. That is what's going to be the signpost of divisiveness forever. It always has been, it always will be until it is addressed and admitted to. Just like how you were kind of talking about people saying, yeah, I've never felt better on a low carb diet, but man, my autoimmune issues all went away on a low carb diet, but I got rid of the CPAP machine when I was on that low carb diet for 30 days, but whatever. You're literally saying it,
Hmm.
but you are choosing otherwise out of pleasure. Not
Right.
you, but they,
Yes.
people, right? We choose that pleasure. We are so such pleasure seekers
Mhm.
that we cannot get away from it. We cannot honestly admit that, okay, maybe life isn't supposed to be this constant feeding of pleasure, this
Right.
constant over inundation of hyperized stimulation, which it
Mhm.
is. And food is 100% at the forefront. And we have put that at the forefront for most of us as a form of reward, as a form of validation, as a form of comfort, as a form of, energy, stimulation, whatever you want to say, any adverbial extreme. We're sad, we're mad, we're
Mhm.
tired, we're cold, we're wet, we're hungry. It's a funeral, it's a birthday, blah, blah, blah. Eat, 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 eat. There's always a food for it.
Mhm.
What about just the self? What about just, no, I can't do that. That's too weird. That's why I did not eat on Thanksgiving this past year and declared it my own national fasting day.
Nice.
Why? Thanks. Why do we, especially as Americans,
Mhm.
need a day to overly gluttonize? Like we already have 364 other of them
That's
and
right.
then the statistics to prove it. So why not, be the anyway, that's why I did that because I wanted to just be alone with myself and think like and observe and listen and just be in wonderment and awe of life and the world around me and like, okay, yeah, but I'm bored. So you eat because you're bored? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but like I was going through an emotion. So you eat because you were going it's
Mhm.
always for that reason, for a reason. It's never about nourishment and
Right.
sustenance. No,
Mhm.
but I was hungry. No, 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 no. 99% of people that I know, probably 99% of people that you know, probably even yourself, definitely me, have never been hungry. We have really wanted to eat. Don't get me wrong about it.
Right.
I have never truly been hungry.
Right.
I've definitely never been starving. Have I said those words? Yeah, all the time.
Yes. Mm.
But I've never, I don't know what it means to truly, truly be hungry. I
Mhm.
definitely do not know what it means to be starving. And for damn sure, neither does 99%
Mhm.
of the rest of this country and most of the world. Yet we think we do.
Mhm.
We are fortunate enough to have the luxury
Mhm.
of supply, variety, and provision, and the easily, readily available access to pretty much anything we want all the time. And
Mhm.
as long as that's still being fed, and as long as emotions and personality are at the forefront of what is most important, what is healthiest, et cetera, in regards to food, that issue debate will never cease.
Mhm.
Because example, oh my God, Jake, I love pizza, but every time I eat it, I get sick. Okay. Well, guess what? You don't love pizza. Your emotional mind may,
Mhm.
your heart, right? Emotional heart may. You've got a lot of memory about it. Oh, you've got some roots in New York City. Good for you. You have before that, Italy. I got it. But
Mhm.
every time you eat it, you get sick, bloated, gassy, depressed, sad, or otherwise. So you do not love pizza. You might think you do, but your
Mhm.
body is clearly telling you we do not. Serena, every
Mhm.
time I drink red wine, I get this massive headache. Well, Jake, you probably shouldn't drink red wine. I know, but I really love red wine.
Uh-huh.
No, you do not.
Mm.
You are trying to tell yourself you do. You're trying to force that emotionally, but your body is literally saying, we don't want any more of this. Please stop.
Mhm.
I'm your body. I am telling you, Serena, hey, it's cold outside. Please, if you don't mind, put a coat on us. We're a bit nippy. And in case you couldn't tell, oh, hey guys, she doesn't know that we're cold. All right, send out the goosebumps. Goosebumps on the way. The goosebumps are here. Serena, we're trying to tell you we're cold. Please,
Right.
cover us. And you don't. And then we go, okay, everybody else line up. You guys know who's next. Who's next? Hypothermia. All right, you ready to go? Frostbite, you guys ready? Okay, and then we're gonna kill her. Okay? Ready,
Yeah.
break.
It's true.
And if you do follow that, like, okay, everybody stand down, false alarm, right? Ooh, that was a close one. When it's hot outside, all right, sweat, front and center, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, death, everybody fall in, right?
Mhm.
And the same things happen. It's like, all right, stand down, guys. She cooled
Mhm.
us off.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
follow we follow other cues. Like you said, when
Yeah.
we're cold, we put on a jacket. When we're
Oh yeah.
we go to sleep. When we're, exhausted, we rest. But when our body is showing us all of these signs, the problem I think is people don't realize that's what the signs mean. People don't
Mm,
realize that autoimmune diseases, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, people don't realize that all of those things are things that are being caused by their food and
mm,
the substances that we use and put in our mouths every day. And doctors don't talk about that. And I think that's the big issue, I think, for me, is that doctors don't talk about those things. So they get their nutrition information from nutritionists that weigh 300 pounds, that tell people to use margarine and have white bread 3 times a day for their carbohydrates, along with their meals. So hard to watch that, and to know that people are suffering and getting sicker and sicker every day. And then you've got, bums out here like us talking about how you're going to feel better if you do this. And people don't even listen to Dr. Chafee and Dr. Berry and Dr. Baker. So they're certainly having a hard time hearing that from us, even with our personal evidence, the
mm.
personal things that we can say, this is what helped me and this worked for me. And people still are so put off by it that I would say 8 times out of 10, they won't even try it. They won't even try it, even though they've tried literally everything else, from the cabbage soup diet to 14-day juice fast to juice
Yep.
cleanses they buy in the mail to all
Yep.
those MLM products, right? They've tried everything. And then you say, just eat one ingredient foods that come from animals for the next 3 weeks and see what happens. And they're like, oh, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that.
I'm not, and even more so, I couldn't do it.
Couldn't,
Like I
couldn't,
can't do that. And I'm just like, just tell me you don't want to.
right? Because you
Or
can.
just tell me you won't. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
tell me, and that's
Mhm.
with anything, right? Don't tell me you can't do it. Like anybody that says that to me, I'm like, no, I'm like, back that up. Just tell me you don't want to.
Mhm.
Tell me you won't. Just refuse. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll respect that. Good for you.
Right.
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 But yeah, like God, 80%. Yeah, I'd say it's
Mhm.
probably true.
Mhm.
People that, come up, Serena, what's the secret? I mean, your skin is just glowing, 4 kids. How do you keep it? How do you do it? All this energy. You look like you're in great shape. What's the secret? Well, this is how I eat. Da 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 da. Well, what else?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it.
Mm.
You mean there's no supplements? No, nope. Oh well, I'm
It's the
not
beef.
doing it.
That's
Yep,
what I
I'm
tell
not.
people. It's the beef.
Nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
Nope,
Right.
not doing it.
Mhm.
You literally just add whatever you do, like, I'm down. Like, tell me the secret. What's the formula? And then, like you said, it's like, no, I
Mhm.
reject it. I refuse to believe it. And
Yeah.
again, pay homage to the Matrix. In the scene where they're walking around, Lawrence Fishburne's character is talking, and he's like, these people are around us every day. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they subscribe to this system. And so long as they subscribe to this system, they're going to defend it
Mhm.
because it's about an identity and a belief system. It's like as sure as Santa Claus
Yeah.
to a toddler. And
Mhm.
we're trying to say, like, Santa Claus might not be real, you know? Oh, like people can't hear that.
Yeah.
You can't walk up to Serena, who's been a vegan coach for 40 years, and been like, hey, I appreciate what you've done for the community. God bless. Anyone, and for that matter, that has a conscious decision about how and what they eat, I respect. I don't might not agree with it, but someone that at least is taking the time to consciously choose for a set amount of or set reasoning. I'm like, all right, like, I don't agree with it. I think you're kind of stupid and also in a point, but at least you're making a conscious effort towards it as opposed to just
Mhm.
mindlessly, blindlessly, whatever.
Yeah.
But here's Serena, 40 years. She's been coaching, counseling, has a treasure trove of tens of thousands of clients, lives she's changed and touched. Fantastic. And all of a sudden, here comes some new information to her that is very contrarian to what she has done, what she's made a life out of, how she's raised her children, blah, 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 her profession. What she's gonna, it's the hill she's gonna die on, for sure.
That's right.
I'm not necessarily saying she's wrong. Some parts, maybe. If
Mhm.
she's not a raw vegan, I'm definitely saying, hey, you're definitely eating a lot of processed food, so you can get
Yeah.
off that high horse.
Mhm.
I definitely respect you if you're a raw vegan, big time. But for the rest of pretty much everybody else that's not, like you're eating a lot of processed food. So,
Yeah.
but back to Serena, 40 years, done all these things. Da, da, da. How can you get past that?
Mhm.
Right? Like how much humility would you have to be able to say, gosh, even with all this tenure and all this experience and all these accolades, like they kind of what they're saying has a little bit of sense to it.
Mhm.
And that's someone that's got all that experience that back to just like you said, you and I, the lay people of the world that are just walking around trying to get by on the information that we were raised on, and living trying to live a decent life. If we can't get through to them, us, how could you ever expect to get through, the other side of that spectrum where it is the vertically sloped side of ignorance and stubbornness? I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I do see, and I'm sure you can see this kind of continued wave upscale of resistance and inquiry that more and more people seem to be having, right? Like the voice is getting a little louder from the bottom.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of it comes from anger, displeasure, just being fed up, sick and tired of
Mhm.
being sick and tired. I think it now, the modern world, that message can only stay hidden for so long, to where people are becoming more educated, they are becoming more informed, they are questioning, they are wondering, even if it is still 80% don't care, aren't going to do it. Well, that 20% might have only been like 5 a few
Right.
years ago.
Mhm.
So I think the compounding interest of the movement is good, but it is still a tidal wave of an adversary for sure.
Really crazy. Okay. So, on a kind of lighter note, if I did the math right, according to the amount of days, did you just run a marathon on raw milk?
Um, I ran the marathon fasted, so
Fasted.
I started a raw milk diet the day I finished the marathon, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
the day you finished the marathon.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So tell us about the raw milk thing, and tell us about the marathon fast, because most people think you need all those goos and the gels, and you got to carb
yeah.
load the night before. They have a big spaghetti dinner before the
Yep,
marathon and
yep.
all of that kind of stuff. So tell us about the marathon, and then I want to hear about the raw milk experiment.
Oh yeah. So it started a couple years ago. The first marathon I ran, actually, um, I had just run a half marathon a couple of weeks before, and I did that one fasted and dry fasted also. So no water on the course, no food, no
Mhm.
carbs. The day of, before anything, I was already on a carnivore. I was already a carnivore a couple years in, and or 2 years in, first year in rather, 2021. Yeah, and was like, I was still kind of experimenting with things, but I said, this is going to be the first real test of this. I'm going to get on a race and do this well. And I ran a pretty solid half marathon. Again, I didn't stop during the race for water because there was a guy right behind me. And I was like, I don't want to let him beat me. And so I just ran through all the water stops. And when I finished the race, I was like, hey, how about that? I didn't drink anything either. So dry fasted too. Cool. But as soon as I finished the race, I was like, man, I feel pretty good. I think I could have done this twice, like a marathon. So I looked at the calendar. When's the next marathon nearest me? I was living in New York at the time. It was 2 weeks out, or 18 days out, Philadelphia Marathon. It was Halloween day that day. The marathon was November 20th, so just 3 weeks away. And I was like, that's enough time to prepare. Mind you, I never ran a marathon. This
Mhm.
is the furthest I'd ever run before. That was probably like 15 miles. So I was like, oh, 20 days to prepare. That should do it. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I was like, this will put a cherry on top for the proving of the diet, I guess, maybe.
Mhm.
So preparing for that one, I ended up running it the same thing, fasted and dry fasted, no water, and I ran a pretty respectable time to it. And people are like, there's no way you couldn't have done that, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, there it is. So I don't know. I was in a group of an athlete group in my old real estate firm, and there were a lot of ultra marathoners and serious triathletes in the group. That some people had done like 100 plus races and da da da. So on the first call, I was very like starstruck by their accolades, because like, dang, she's done like 50 ultras and he's done Moab and but like big races. And the moderator was like, Jake, tell him about that dry fasted marathon you recently did. And like all the Zoom, everybody was like, like got real close to the screens. And I said, yeah, I just ran the Philadelphia Marathon, fasted and dry fasted. And they're like, well, what was your time? I was like, 3:25, and they were all like, what? No way. Like, how did you do that? And I'm like, you just talked about running, the Moab 220, and you were part of, Breakwater, and, da da da. Like, you guys are way cooler than they're like, dude, that's crazy. Fast forward, I've been doing that now for a few years, and recently, to start this year off, I ran the Houston Marathon, which is my first time running it, which is great because Houston really shows up and it's cool. And I was like, sure, let's do it again. We did it again. I did not do it dry, so I did have some water on this one, but I did do it fasted and still ran, 3:30 ish, and felt great afterwards. It was awesome, and that was, before going into that, I was like, okay, after this marathon, I'm going to start a diet of just raw milk for 30
Mhm.
days. I was like, a marathon's probably a great way to start it, to really bleed out everything, anything residual that's left over or otherwise. And so as soon as I finished the marathon, I was like, perfect. I had my milk with me and just, started a diet that day. And now today is day 25 of
Amazing.
doing that. And yeah, I've had nothing but raw milk and water for the last 25 days going on 30. So Super Bowl Monday will be day number 30, and it's been cool. It's been a trip.
Yeah.
It's been simple.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And it's been surprisingly easy. I didn't think it was going to be as easy mentally for
Yeah.
me, just because I like to eat, just like
Yeah.
we all do, right? Again, that pleasure, that joy of eating, especially, and this as a carnivore, like you cook 90, probably 9% of your meals.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
same for me for the last how many years, where it's like I don't eat out. I don't want to eat out. I love that relationship with food. So having that taken away is probably the most challenging part of it, because I like getting my hands on it. I like smelling. I like the blood. I like the char. I like the process, the intimacy, right?
Mhm.
Of doing that is very therapeutic
Mhm.
and fulfilling. So not doing that is kind of strange.
Mhm.
But then also the frequency of which I've been eating or drinking is also different than what I'm used to. I'm used to normally, one meal a day or no meals a day. And
Mhm.
so like, sipping milk kind of steadily throughout the day is kind of like, I don't like devoting that much time
Oh,
to
yeah.
eating, to consumption.
Yeah.
Like I can be doing way many other things. And that's another one of those great benefits about eating this way. You realize how much time you devote and spend on food,
Yeah.
whether it's going to get it, making it, eating it, disposing it, like during the day. I mean, I know I don't have enough time to do this. Well, maybe you shouldn't take 3 lunches and have to go to every happy hour and,
Right.
have a 2-hour breakfast and da 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 da. But by the time you realize it, you've had like a 3-hour workday of like uselessness.
Mhm.
But the diet's been pretty simple. I've got a great supply of a great source of suppliers locally and abroad, and yeah, it's been pretty fun. But I'm definitely looking forward to finishing it, because there are things that I've noticed that I'm like, my body is telling me this is not something that we not only should do for a while, but like there are signs saying it's not what we
Mhm.
want to be doing.
Yeah.
Mainly teeth. At the end of this 30 days, when I return to strict carnivore diet,
Mm.
I am no longer going to use toothpaste.
Mm.
See you later. I am throwing my toothpaste away when
Yeah.
I go back to a carnivore diet. Why? Because I'm just going to brush my teeth with water. That's
Okay.
it. Because you know this now too. Like there's no film on your
Yeah.
tongue, there's no grit, grime, or otherwise. You might
No.
need a toothpick pretty regularly. But as far as in having anything or bad breath or foul sense of unhygienics in the mouth area,
Yeah.
it's gone. That's come back. I've had a regular, steady, film on the tongue in the morning. That's clearly
Mhm.
something going on in my stomach coming up at night. And then I can feel the film from the sugar and leftovers
Sure.
on my teeth. That's the first sign to me of like, don't really like this. Bowel movements have been actually pretty frequent, much more so than normally on a strict carnivore
Interesting.
diet. Very interesting to me. Like infants, for example, when they're breastfeeding, it's usually not the case. It's usually their bowel movements are much less frequent. They're much easier for them to pass. They're oftentimes little like ghost turds, where you're just like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like when my brother's daughter was born, I thought she was like a miracle child. I was like, there's like nothing in here when she's just breastfeeding. I was like, there's nothing in here, what's going on there? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, it must be because she's just processing everything and
Right.
utilizing all of it, that there's no discard.
That's
But as
right.
soon as she got on those colorful jars,
Yeah. It's a mess.
explosions, everything changed. So seeing that with me, I'm kind of like, I wonder if these stools and the frequency is something to do with what's being eaten by the animals. I think it is, even though much of the milk I have been drinking is organic, grass fed, and finished, and
Okay.
pastured on pastured cows locally. But some of it is not. Some of it is still grain fed animals. Even though it's all raw milk, some of it's not the same level of organics and just
Sure. Mhm.
friendliness as what some of the other cows are exposed to. And I think that's got a big part to do with it. But nonetheless, carnivore diet, I've gone up to, I think 11 is either 11 or 12 days was my longest span of not having a bowel movement,
Mhm.
which I think is really cool. I've
Yeah.
had I've had a little bit of gas. Never have that on a carnivore diet. So
Yeah.
these
Interesting.
little things that are to most people probably not worth even thinking about, I see as like reasons to not want to continue doing this.
Mhm. Yeah. So how many days left? So you're on day 25, is that what you said?
Yeah, day 25, so 5 to
Yeah.
go.
More days.
The Monday after the Super Bowl
Okay.
is back on
Awesome.
it. And I just got my supply of things to come. And now I'm like, I don't know if I'm even going to cook the food, my first couple of days, if I just want to keep it raw and kind of get my
Mm-hmm.
toes back in the water.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about cook bacon and eggs sounds pretty great right now.
Yeah.
But
Right.
other than that, I've been satisfied, satiated. I have had zero cravings for other things.
Amazing.
I had a couple of whiffs of like hot cooked food outside a couple of days and have talked about that. I was at an intersection with a Papa John's, a Dairy Queen, a Popeyes, and a Taco Shack a cup like a week ago, and I had my windows down and the sunroof open, and I guess I got hit by all of them like in a crosswind, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Like I gotta get out of here. It smelled really good. Again, I
Yeah.
hadn't, it was a cold day. I haven't had hot food. I was like, "Wow, all this fried smells." Like it definitely was appetizing.
Yeah.
But other than that, no cravings, no issues. So maybe there's this subconscious thing because of the raw milk that's telling me like from an in utero memory of like this is very nourishing to you. You're comforted. You're safe. You're okay. You don't need anything else. Like maybe that is some kind
Mhm.
of subconscious message saying to me, you need nothing else. You're getting everything you need. You're being fed from the mother,
Mhm.
so to speak. I don't know. And then today was my first time putting an extended fast into this. I've been checking my glucose, my blood ketones and my glucose pretty regularly. I've maintained between 89 and like the highest I had was like 113
Wow.
millimolars per deciliter for glucose. So I've stayed
Uh-huh.
pretty regular within that range. Still considering how frequently I've been consuming the milk, which is
Yeah.
a lot of sugar, a lot of sugar, a lot of
Yeah.
sugar, but I've never gone over 113 milligrams per deciliter in
That's
blood
great.
sugar. I think it's pretty remarkable.
Mhm.
Now, my ketone bodies were not being produced because there's still too much glycogen and sugar and
Correct.
otherwise just carbohydrates in the system. So the liver doesn't need to do it. And so today I was like, all right, I'm gonna finally push this a little bit and see if I can get there. I woke up this morning. My last glass was 16:30, so 4:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon. I was up this morning like 3:45. I checked it at exactly 12 hours later. Nope, 90 milligrams millimolars per deciliter in glucose, but only like zero point 0.2 on the ketone registry, so still
Wow.
nothing. And then it wasn't until later this afternoon, 22-hour mark, zero point 0.8. It's low ketosis, but it's
Yeah.
ketosis.
Right.
And to be consuming 250 to 350 grams of carbs per
Yeah.
day
Uh-huh.
at that regularity of consumption, that frequency of consumption, and to
Yeah.
be able to get into ketosis within 22 hours,
Pretty good.
Serena, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like this has been the most remarkable day thus far of the whole experiment out of because that might take some people, it's taken me up to 90 hours before
Yeah.
to get into of a full fast to
Right.
have to get into ketosis because of having a steady diet of
Yeah.
carbohydrates. And now
So,
after 22 hours of that amount per day over this amount of time and to be right there, it's like,
yeah.
how is that possible?
Yeah, it's the kind of carbs, I would say, it's that the
Yeah.
carbs that you're eating are, or drinking are okay compared
Yeah.
to the processed carbs that everybody else eats.
Yeah.
So it's
It
pretty
was a
cool.
big eureka moment. I was like,
Yeah,
wow. Like,
that's
I was like,
awesome.
holy cow. Yeah. Like,
Very good
again,
experiment.
literally, yeah, very much so. Like, literally have tried. And after like, 60 hours, I'm like, dang, I'm still not there. What's going on?
Yeah.
72 hours sometimes. I'm like, dang, I'm still not there. Clients, the same thing. They're like,
Mhm.
dude, I can't get into ketosis. I've been fasting for 36 hours. I'm like,
Interesting.
try 48. And they're like, ugh. And then
Yeah.
finally, hey, man, it took 63 hours, but I got there. And then we go back and think like, okay, well, what were we? Well, I was eating a pretty good staple of cashews
Right.
or, macadamia nuts. I'm like,
There
culprit,
you go.
or I was, my meal frequency was pretty high, like having 3 to 4 meals a day. Or it's just a very interesting science.
Yeah.
But that little pricker, the
Yep.
numbers don't lie. And I was just, yeah, it was very much I was blown away today, really
Yeah,
blown away.
those blue post numbers don't lie.
Yeah, blue post, blue post, blue post, right?
We we should definitely start saying that.
That's think it's gonna be the tag for me for the day is blue post for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you had advice for somebody who is sick or out of shape or overweight or not feeling good and just kind of eating, I don't even really want to call it the standard American diet. I mean, if they're just eating non-intuitively, eating stuff from the middle of the grocery store, whatever, somebody who's clearly unhealthy and not feeling good, what's your advice for somebody who would consider this maybe?
Um, Great question. If you're a toe in the water kind of person or just an all in, cold turkey, it doesn't matter. But going about doing it needs to be something that you can maintain. You know, the method, the way that you do it, whatever way that you can sustain it, that's the way I would say to do it. So if you're someone that says, what's the most broadly spectrum way that I could get into this and just, you know, take a key bump? I would say if you can pick it, pull it, or kill it, it's a great place to start, right? If you can pick it, so from the ground, if you can pull it, you know, from the earth, or pick it, pull it, right? Or kill it. It's a great place to start. Well, what about something that's made with pick it, pull it, or no,
Mm-mm.
that's not what I said, right? It's like I was listening to a radio show today. They were talking about prop bets for the Super Bowl, which for anybody that doesn't know, the Super Bowl has some of the best prop bets in the world that
Mhm.
you can bet on during the game that have nothing to do with the sport itself.
Yeah.
You know, like what color is the Gatorade going to be that they pour on the coach at the
Yeah.
end? If you know birds are going to fly over, if the national anthem gets messed up, funny
Mhm.
little things. And of course, there's a pretty good celebrity list that's going to be attending the Super Bowl this year, especially one keynote that's dating one of the players for the Chiefs. She's a very popular singer,
Mhm.
and the prop bets of who she's going to be standing next to, like all these little things that are up there are pretty great. And I say that in the sense that you know the pick it, pull it, or kill it. Whatever you can keep to is going to be the thing that's going to work best for you. But the second you think it's like imprisoning or otherwise, it's not going to want to be something you're going to want to do. You're going to hate it.
Mhm.
And then if you're someone that's you know ready to go all in and thinking you can tackle the, hey, go for it. You know,
Right.
you're looking for the most radical change and you know an absolute you know kick in the teeth as far as in realization and enlightenment. That's what's going to come to you. But I think pick it, pull it, or kill it is a great place to start. It's kind of like what I define as an animal-based diet. So if the majority of the calories are coming from animals or animal byproducts, the numerator would be, you know, anything else. But
Mhm.
again, if you're just going pick it, pull it, or kill it at the most basic sense, you're just eating whole foods, right? As opposed to someone
Right.
saying, well, what about, you know, if it's made with? No. And this is where the prop bet segue comes in that I almost forgot about why I brought it up, which is why I was kind of rambling and repeating myself a little bit there. I was trying to buy time. Pay attention to that, guys. This is what you do when you forget why you said something. The prop bets have to be exactly the way they're written. So pick it, pull it, or kill it is not, well, what about something made with pick it or pull it or kill it? No. A prop bet is like who is blank standing next to at in the first quarter? Well, what about in the second quarter? No,
Mhm.
the bet is the first quarter. Well, the what if this person mentions her by first and last name, but then he only says the first name? No, it's got to be first and last. Pick it, pull it, or kill it. Don't, you know, you're going to want to try to cling and hold on to these
Yep.
old ways of thinking. And then lastly, I would say for someone, anyone who is sick, who feels, you know, who doesn't feel well, who feels badly, who's depressed, who's sad, who doesn't feel like themselves, who doesn't love who they are,
Mhm.
you need to be willing to admit that you're sick or that you don't love that person or that you are sad before you're able to heal. You need to be ready and accepting to the healing process. You can't come into it as a critic. You have to come in as a student.
Mhm.
And if you come in as a critic, it's going to be very, very difficult. But if you come in as a student, it's still going to be difficult, but it'll be far more rewarding.
I agree 100%. Jake, this was great. You have such good advice. I appreciate you doing this with me today.
I appreciate being here, Serena, and I promise today when I settle down for the night and touch up my face with a little bit of tallow, which I won't be eating tonight because it's not on the menu.
That's
I'll definitely I'll give a little nod to the gods and say thanks. So much appreciated.
absolutely. All right. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I'll see you next time on the Carnivore Revolution.